look, it's that time of year. This is something I'm very excited about because I have not gotten to partake in any real hockey conversation since I've been at 105.3 The Fan, and that is going to come to an end today as we welcome to the program the one, the only, Mr. Gavin Spittle, Mr. Hockey Hawk himself. Gavin, glad to have you on board. And look, we've got a handful of questions, but just in general, how do you feel about where this Dallas Stars team is at right now as we're 25 games into the season so far?
Well, Stick Tap boys, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. I feel good. I feel fine. I think they've been playing really good hockey as of late. When you look at 3 games in 4 nights, back-to-back on the road, and you pull off 6 points, 3 straight wins against Central Division opponents, count me in. So I think it starts with Jake Ottinger. He's been terrific this year, one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League. The injury news today on Tyler Seguin is really rough because that is arguably the best line as far as 3 forwards in hockey together. So they'll have to account for that, and they'll have to possibly go out and shop for new players. They do get some salary cap relief to do that. But, they're a deep team, and it's going to depend on at the trade deadline, which is probably about February, early March. Are you going to make moves? Are you going to improve the team? But, I feel good right now. I think they're playing good hockey.
Gavin, speaking of making moves, they made a big move last year to get a guy like Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev obviously not being on the team this year. How have you think the defense and defense line has fared without him and kind of the replacements and some young guys stepping up?
Well, he's a terrific player, Blake, and I think they've adjusted really well. What they did was basically they went in numbers rather than one good defenseman. So they brought in Ilya Lyubushkin, who's been better than I think a lot of people expected, including myself. They went in and went out and got Matt Dumba on a 2-year deal. He hasn't played as well as people had thought. But the one guy who's really stepped up, actually a couple guys, Nils Lundqvist has found himself in that top 6 defensive pairing all season long, and that's terrific.
Surprising,
Esa
too.
Lindell, yeah, what's that?
Surprising as well with how Nils Lundqvist played last year.
Very surprising. Very, very surprising. But you can't take him out of the lineup because he's been playing so well. And Esa Lindell, we have to give a lot of credit to Esa. He was paired with Chris Tanev, and people are wondering, is Tanev making Esa Lindell that much better? Well, Esa's game has not dropped off. They signed him to a new long-term deal. He's been terrific this year. So I don't think they necessarily missed Tanev as of yet. And you can always, as I just mentioned at the trade deadline, go out and pick up another piece if you have to.
I want to ask you one more question. We'll get into some more specifics about tonight's game against the LA Kings. I'm looking at NHL.com on CBS right now, and they got the power rankings out. They got the Dallas Stars at 5th. Do you think that is a fair spot for them right now, or do you think they should be bumped up or lower down the poll?
No, I think 5th is fair. I think 5th is very fair. There are a lot of good teams in the NHL. And what's so funny about this league is parity is probably at its highest. Therefore, if, look at the Edmonton Oilers. They just barely squeaked in, and they were in the Stanley Cup final. 2 years ago, they didn't win the Stanley Cup, but Florida, by 1 game, gets into the playoffs and makes it to the Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily where you're seated. It's how you're playing going into the playoffs. So I think 5th is a very fair kind of assessment of the Stars, just for the simple fact as well, they really have been playing their best hockey as of late, not necessarily consistently.
Gavin Spittle, the Hockey Hawk himself, Spits and Suds podcast. Make sure you go check it out wherever you find your podcast at. Joining us here talking all things hockey, Dallas Stars on the D&M Leasing and Zoom hotline. Let me ask you this, because when you look at a guy like a Tyler Seguin, right? I mean, he's 32 years old, which by no means is old in sports these days, but let's call it what it is. This is now the 3rd major lower body injury this guy's had since 2020. All right. And look, from a hockey perspective, I mean, and you're going to know, I'll defer to you on this because you know this a lot better than we do. When it comes to a hip, I mean, you don't see it as much in basketball. Every now and again, you'll see it in football. But from a hockey perspective, just how big of an injury is this? And kind of what do the Stars do with Tyler Seguin moving forward when he does come back from injury?
Well, He still has several years left on his contract. Okay. And I think when he was in the lineup this year, he was playing at a plus level.
Yep.
So therefore, I think you have to be patient. And what the Stars can do, and teams have done this. Vegas has done it. Tampa did it a couple of years ago. You can put Tyler Seguin on long-term injured reserve, which you'll have to do because he'll be out 4 to 6 months. That gives you cap relief. In the playoffs, there's no salary cap, Fred. So therefore, Tyler Seguin plus the players that you acquired can both play because you don't have to be under the salary cap for to a lot of ice time. Played a lot for the Bruins, has played a lot for the Stars. It tends to wear down, but it's been a heck of a run.
Gavin, with Tyler Seguin being out, obviously other guys got to step up and help out Duchesne and Marchment. We've seen Rope do his thing. We know about Wyatt Johnston. What have been your thoughts on Robo this year? Kind of had a slow start as far as the goals go. Do you think maybe a line change for him could do him good, or do you think he's finding his groove right now on this Dallas Stars team?
I think he's playing much better, and we have to kind of go back to the offseason when Jason Robertson had a pretty serious surgery. And because of that, it was announced that he wouldn't play at all during the preseason. That's really tough because we call it in hockey game legs, where you really have to get those major minutes as far as games. You can skate around the ice all day, but there is certainly a differentiation between practicing and just skating around or playing in a high-level game. And Jason Robertson didn't have the ability to do that. So I think he's kind of getting his game legs back now along with his confidence. I think Wyatt Johnston being put back on that first line has really helped him. I think he's skating with a lot of confidence right now. So I would keep him on that first line. The player that I'm really impressed with is a wily veteran called Evgeny Dodonov, acquired 2 years ago for Denis Gurianov from the Montreal Canadiens. He's been terrific. And what I love about Dodonov is he's kind of a Swiss Army knife in that, just like a Swiss Army knife, you can pull out a screwdriver, you can pull out a pair of scissors. Evgeny Dodonov can play on your top line, he can play on your fourth line, and he can be effective as a checker, and he can be effective as a scorer. Whatever the team needs, Evgeny Dodonov will be there. And I think that really does play a crucial role for this team when you lose a Tyler Seguin, that you can kind of piece in a player like Dodonov.
Well, you're going to need all those guys tonight as you take on the LA Kings on a nationally televised game on TNT. Both teams on a 3-game winning streak right now. And kind of the knock on the Dallas Stars and the recent years has been they're a finesse team. Their speed kills, they're great at scoring, but when it comes to the toughness, maybe the defense, not their best side of the ice. The Kings are going to have to, they're a rough team, top 10 in hits. What do you expect from this game? Do you think they can kind of prove that they are a different team, or do you think they just go and lean into their strengths tonight against the LA Kings?
I think the Stars can play physical if they want to play physical. I actually think sometimes they're better when the games get more physical. Let me give you an example the other night. Similar to in basketball where there's a full court press. When they played Winnipeg came at them hard, a deep forecheck. And what that means is basically sending as many as 3 players into the defensive zone to force you to make mistakes, just like a full court press in basketball. And once the Stars broke that, they used their speed and their outlet passes, and they had a lot of opportunities because of that. So the same thing, if the LA Kings want to get physical tonight, the Stars just need to allow them to be physical. If you want to be physical back, that's fine. Exert your physicality, but at the same time, that will allow the Stars to utilize their speed too, if that can't be neutralized by the physicality. So it's kind of like a chess match that we'll see tonight. One of the players that I always tell the Stars fans to look out for when you're playing the LA Kings is Anze Kopitar.
Yep.
He is the Dirk Nowitzki of the LA Kings, has played his whole career in Los Angeles. Just an absolutely amazing player, has played in the NHL at a high level since 2006. So this guy is absolutely a superstar. But because he plays in LA, and LA isn't necessarily a major hockey market, it's a major city, you don't hear his name too much. But he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And by the way, he already has 29 points in 27 games. So I would watch out for Anse Kopitar because he plays really well against the Stars. He's great in the face-off circle. He's a great two-way player. So LA is an interesting mixture. They're kind of like Dallas in that they have a lot of cagey veterans, but they have some really, really good young talent as well. So I'm excited to watch this game tonight.
I'm going to be watching, Trevor Moore, Byfield for the Kings have not been what they've expected, I think, so far this season, kind of a little bit under. So I wonder if this is a big breakout game for them or if the Stars are able to hold them under wraps.
I think teams are looking at the Dallas Stars after 2 straight Western Conference finals, and they're ramped up to play. The interesting thing about LA, Blake, is that someone once told me there are 17,000 hockey fans in Los Angeles, and they all happen to go to the game.
Yep.
So that barn is loud. It's boisterous. People enjoy hockey in LA. It's good to see them back because the NHL needs a market like Los Angeles. That's good for commercial ad revenue, so it's good for the league. But yeah, I'm excited to, like you, to see a lot of their young talent and see what the Stars can do against that young talent. Now, people do have to realize the Stars have won 3 in a row like the Kings. You are going to lose games eventually. If you can pull off this victory and then Friday night against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas, and then, by the way, you come home Sunday against the first place Calgary Flames, who are catching everybody by surprise. Guess what? Those are 3 games. Don't be surprised. You might lose 2 of them, but that's not the reason to hit the panic button. What you want to do is hopefully pull 3 to 4 points in the next 3 games.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Gavin, because look, now that you got Seguin out, is somebody like a Maverick Bourque? I mean, look, we always talk about, NBA, NFL, next man up when somebody goes down, especially when you're talking about basically your third leading scorer. Who's a guy that's going to have to step up, not just over these next 3 games, but really is going to kind of have to fill that void? I mean, we know it's going to be by committee in some respects, but who's somebody you're looking at?
I think you brought up a great name in Maverick Bourque. Boy, they need him to get going. Maverick Bourque is like a Wyatt Langford for the Texas Rangers. Remember the hype surrounding Wyatt Langford, in spring training? We had already given him the MVP. Well, here comes Maverick Bourque in the American Hockey League. He came up through the Star system fast. And then all of a sudden, last year, he's the American Hockey League MVP. So we're expecting him to come up and score 50, 60, 70 points. And it just has not happened as of yet. There have been flashes, but he's getting used to the NHL game. I think you got to keep him in the lineup, but we have talked on Spits and Suds. Maybe if it's a weekend, you send him down, get a little confidence going in their minor league system just outside of Austin, the Texas Stars. But at the same time, with the Seguin injury, it would be great if he, got going. The thing about Maverick Bourque, not only does he have to get going, he has to earn his way on one of these top lines because Dodonov's playing really well. Sam Steele's playing really well. Those guys are in front of him right now. So he has to prove to Coach Pete DeBoer, hey, I'm good enough not only to stay in the NHL, but I'm good enough to be on one of those top lines because that's where the point production will start to come.
He's got a great name, too. I mean, Maverick Bourque.
Come on.
Are we serious?
Really does.
This guy's got the name to be a NHL stud. All right, so the game gets dropped. The puck drops at 9 o'clock. Spits and Studs, tell the folks at home where they can find the podcast.
Yeah, thanks to all the listeners of making Spits and Suds the #1 Stars podcast in DFW, and we're just so proud of this program. So, little tidbit for Stars fans: we say a 9 o'clock start, but they have to wait for that first game to end. So we might get the tip or the drop about 9:15 or something like that. Let's hope that these games end on time. But Spits and Suds, we're on Odyssey or wherever you can find your favorite podcasts. We have a lot of guests just in town as far as local reporters talking Stars. We have players on. We have a lot of fun. We tell stories. So appreciate the allowing me to come on and plug. And having a lot of fun doing the podcast.
No, we appreciate you, Mr. Spittle. Appreciate you taking some time to give us a little bit of puck knowledge here before the Dallas Stars take on the LA Kings, looking to improve their winning streak to 4. Come on.
Thanks, boys. Really appreciate it. Stick tap to you guys.